I gotta say, Amy, you've been throwing your weight around a lot these days at work.
Are you saying I'm fat?
Oh.
Welcome to Hotline TV, everyone. I'm Amy Walter.
And I'm John Mercurio. Okay, Amy, put your makeup on and fix your hair up pretty and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. That's right.
Ooh, I think that's it. Is that a hint that we're going to talk about the New Jersey governor's race?
Or the Atlantic City mayor's race, whichever you'd prefer.
Oh,
yes or no, which one?
Atlantic City mayor's race. I've been following that really
Let's
closely.
do the New Jersey governor's race,
Oh.
if you don't mind me overruling you. Let's go through. We've got a New Jersey governor's race and a Virginia governor's race in just a few short weeks. And the polls are looking pretty tight, let's be honest. I mean, maybe one poll closer, one race closer than the other. But let's look at the possible scenarios, if you will, whereby each of these candidates, each of the major party candidates, is able to eke out a win in his race. Let's start, as I said, in Atlantic City, New Jersey, talking about the New Jersey race. First of all, how do you see the potential by which John Corzine, Democratic incumbent, ekes out a win over his Republican challenger?
Let's just say this. If this were John Corzine versus Chris Christie, with no third-party candidate, John Corzine would lose.
That's right.
John Corzine is helped really only because of Daggett. If he gets 10% of the vote or better,
Right.
I think Corzine wins this race. If he gets under 10%, under double digits, then they're going to give it.
We can go to Chris with that.
We
We'll
can
use
go
your
with
Chris Christie scenario.
Oh, okay. So fundamentally, what can you say about an incumbent who's going to win with under 50% of the vote? Right? It's not that he suddenly became. Yeah, he won really only because the vote against him got split among two people, not that he suddenly became more popular.
I agree with you. I think that this is fundamentally a race where you've got all the Democratic campaign people focused on what exactly Chris Daggett is doing. He, of course, picked up the Newark Star-Ledger endorsement over the weekend. A bit of a surprise. It's the biggest newspaper in New Jersey. Of course, a lot of people in New Jersey read the Philadelphia Inquirer and the New York Times. But it is a very influential newspaper. It could have an impact. Chris Daggett's polling at above 10%
yeah, he was
at
at
this
13
point,
in his last poll.
which is to a large extent why we're seeing John Corzine's increase. And so I think yes, at the end of the day, it's, as you said, I'm just repeating it in a different word, it's going to be because of Chris Daggett that John Corzine wins.
All right, so if Chris Christie wins, look, I think the scenario, again, if you're the Obama White House, you say, look, this was all politics, local politics,
Right.
Corzine was already very disliked, he was unable to move out of there, but out of the doldrums. But I think fundamentally you have a president who is up, somewhere 56, 57% approval rating, and that does not translate to candidates. And if I'm looking forward as a campaign in 2010,
Right.
thinking no matter how popular Obama may be, or at least how strong his approval rating may be, if I have my own personal problems as a candidate, or if the party itself is still seen as ineffective in Washington,
Right.
Obama's approval rating is not going to really help me.
Plus, you've got a New Jersey. If I could say one quick last thing about Corzine winning, I think it's the Democrats are going to be able to trace it back to a debate that was held between the candidates. I think all three of them 2 weeks ago, where Chris Christie was asked repeatedly how he would solve the budget deficit and refused to do so. It was sort of widely panned by critics who said that as much as he's been focusing his attacks on Corzine, he hasn't really offered solutions. Back to the Christie victory scenario, though. Look, I think you're right. I think ultimately John Corzine will be left holding the bag on a bad economy, on a really bad local economy, on a $1.9 billion budget deficit that he himself has also sort of failed to come up with solutions for. And as you said, you've got a really bad national wave. I think at this point, maybe cresting, if you're optimistically looking at Democratic scenarios for 2010, maybe cresting in the fall of 2009 against the Democratic candidates for governor.
All right, now one person who doesn't look like he's going to be getting a personal visit from President Obama, unlike John Corzine, is Democratic Virginia gubernatorial nominee Creed Deeds. All right, John.
Yes, ma'am.
Creed Deeds has not been ahead in any poll over the last what, 2 months or 3 months.
That's correct.
Is it possible for him to win this race?
The only way I see in 2 weeks, what do we have, 2 or 3 weeks left until the election? I think 2.
I can't add.
The only way that that Creed Deeds pulls this out, I think, is if at this point Bob McDonnell self-explodes. You started to see the beginning of a stumble back in August, in late August, when the Post published the story about his thesis, 1989. And you started to see Creed Deeds pick up support. That support is leveled off, and again, McDonnell now opening up a pretty wide lead with a smart campaign that showcases and highlights his strong support from women around the state. And that, I think, has helped him recover. If, however, he does stumble, whether it's because of the thesis story or some other
Something
sort
else,
of controversy, I think that's how Deeds ends up picking up support. At this point, pretty
That's the only
unlikely,
way to
though.
do that. Right. I think that the lesson here, and this goes to how McDonnell wins, which you sort of answered in the how Deeds wins, right? Which is McDonnell wins because he's a disciplined candidate. But for Deeds and Christie, they both have the same problem, which is, you know, running against an unpopular person like Christie's doing, or running against an unpopular position like Deeds is doing, gets you only so far in a gubernatorial contest. These are the kind of campaigns that in a House or Senate race could win you the election where you're just running against something. But when you're running for executive, voters expect more from you, right? They really do. I know everybody wants to say, well, voters are looking for a positive message, or voters are looking for you to be for something, not just against something. But with governors, it's even more important because you're the one in charge. You're not just one of 100 gunning out there and throwing, you know, negative attacks there. So neither Christie nor Deeds has been able to make that case for themselves, and that, I think, is their biggest problem.
I think you raised some excellent points.
Okay, last words from the hotline. Your pick.
Probably
New
not
Jersey.
our last words on the Virginia or New Jersey governor's race. We have a few more weeks, but our last words
right now,
for today's show. Who wins in New Jersey? I'm going to pick Corzine, which is a big deal because obviously that's a turnaround from just about a month ago when Christie was leading. And Democrats, I think, on Election Day will end up declaring victory. In Virginia, it goes to McDonnell. Because, again, he's run a pretty smart campaign.
Yes. I definitely pick McDonnell in Virginia, and you're right. I'm going to go with the Corzine thing right now.
Wow.
But because Daggett really is
on fire.
Is on fire. And I would not have said this. I would not have said this 3 weeks ago. There's still time.
There's still time
for Daggett's vote to fall off. And we will see if Obama can get in there and really generate some enthusiasm.
And Michelle Obama. Don't forget, she's coming up too. But for today, for us, we're out of time, unfortunately.
Until next time, we'll see you on Hotline TV.